Hello, and welcome to our webinar today, where we are going to be talking about 5 tips for improving the productivity and efficiency of your in-house agency. I'm so glad that you can join us, and I hope you get some benefit from watching this with us today. So there's been more and more what we call the rise of the in-house agency. So the role titles are a little bit different and they vary from organization to organization. So perhaps in your organization, it's the traffic manager, production manager, studio manager, creative lead. There's lots of different names by which we know the head of our in-house agency. And so there is certainly what we're observing is a shift towards more and more organizations starting to view their team of designers and creatives more as an in-house agency and to reap the benefits that this can deliver to the organization over just an outsourced agency model. And certainly there is more and more pressure to deliver and demonstrate ROI of the in-house agency team. And so teams need to improve their productivity and efficiency to show results to the business. Often what we are seeing is that the in-house agency model, or the team, has outdated, disconnected, or not fit for purpose tools and systems that can really hamper its efforts to be productive and efficient. So today we're going to look at 5 topics. So these are key topics that come up for us again and again. And so we wanted to share some learnings with you about what we do with our clients. So the 5 topics that we are going to look at today is our tips around traffic management. So that's receiving those inbound requests that come into your team. Resource management. So we're talking about the human resource or the people in your team and how we can look at capacity planning and reviewing. We're also going to take a look at templates and automation. So how can we reduce the duplication, double handling of effort and human error that might be there in our teams? What are some of the things we need to measure? So what are the data points and the metrics that we can really use to demonstrate efficiency, productivity, and maybe even ROI of our agency team? And last of all, we're going to show you a few of our favorite tech features that our clients love and helps them with their in-house agency teams. So a little about us. So my name is Margaret Foley and I'm the Chief Customer Officer here at Simple Marketing Solutions. I've been in the marketing operations technology industry for about 8 years and I love everything business process and helping organizations to become more productive and more efficient. Simple Admation is the leading solution for marketing project management, collaboration, and approvals. What's unique about us, or one of the many things that's unique about Admation, is that it's been specifically designed for marketing teams and for their in-house agency or studios. Admation is a Melbourne-born and bred business, and we've been in our marketing operations for over 20 years. One of the beautiful things about Simple Admation is it can either manage your end-to-end marketing process or be quite modular. So we're going to take a look at the agency process from the influx of that brief right through to the asset lifecycle management today. So a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about today are things that we've learned from working with some of our clients. This is a few of our clients that we work with. What's really interesting is that almost all of the organizations whose logos you can see here on the screen actually have their own in-house agency or creative team. And so this is something that we at Admation work with every day. So there's 3 key themes that we work on with in-house agencies that we're going to take a look at today. Productivity is the measure of how much work gets done in a particular period of time. What did I do today, this week, this month, this quarter? Our goal is to increase productivity so we can do more work in the same amount of time or with the same amount of resources. The second theme is efficiency, and how does that vary from productivity? So efficiency says, how effective are you in your role and how can we make you more efficient? So how can you get even more done in the same amount of time? Improving efficiency almost always leads to increased productivity, and it certainly leads to a reduction in stress and frustration for people in their roles. The last measure that we're looking at here is compliance, measuring compliance with either your business processes or perhaps you've got some regulatory or legislative requirements that your team need to be aware of. Our goal is to be compliant without compromising productivity or efficiency. So the in-house agency process or your creative agency process probably looks a little bit like this. This is really, I guess, the top level steps all the way from over here on step 1, where a brief or a request is submitted, and we'll take a look in a moment is how that might come into your team, all the way through then into trafficking that, assigning it out, creating assets, the rounds of amends that we might go through, the approval process that's applicable in your organization, through to, yay, it's all approved. Now the project is complete and we're going to finalize these assets and maybe put them out there into a dam or some other solution. So as I said, our goal is to achieve productivity, efficiency, and compliance. And we're going to take a look at how we can do that. And what one of our objectives is also to help our clients see how they can achieve that end to end in a single tool. What we see a lot of is different parts of this process being managed in disconnected, unintegrated tools across the end to end process. So let's take a look at our first topic today, which is around traffic management. So if you are in a traffic manager, production manager, studio lead role, whatever it's called in your organization, effectively, your role is to look at an efficient way to manage inbound requests from marketers or other stakeholders in your business, and then to assign to team members who've got the capacity to do the work by the deadline or the date that it's needed by. That's kind of in a nutshell what we're trying to look at here. So what we often see and what maybe is happening for you in your organization that's hampering your efforts to be productive and efficient is, are you receiving requests via email? I've seen clients receiving it even via chat on Slack or Teams. Perhaps we're now working in spreadsheets or Google Forms, but the common theme is that there is no single view of all requests because they're coming in via different channels. Often what we hear is that insufficient information is provided. So we're wasting time and losing time having to go back and get the right information so that as a traffic manager, I can even make a decision on what should I do with this request. What we then often see is multiple systems across the creative lifecycle. So I might be receiving requests via email or chat, and then I'm manually creating projects or tasks in another system. So I'm having to copy and paste details from an email into another system. Then perhaps we're going back to email to get things approved, and we've got limited visibility of our team. Perhaps we've got like a shared Outlook calendar or something like that. If that sounds familiar to you, you're not alone. That's what we see with a lot of our clients when we first start working with them. So how do we go from messy to optimized? So how do we start to bring in the productivity and the efficiency that we're trying to achieve here? So we can look at things such as an online brief, or what some clients might call like a marketing inbox. So it can still feel like sending an email, but what it is capturing the mandatory information that you need as a traffic manager or a studio lead to make a decision about this request that's coming to you. So this is how we get the right information first time round. What we ideally want to be able to do is then take that brief or that request that we've received and just convert that into a project or a job bag, whatever your terminology is, and then be able to start assigning that work out to team members. Importantly, being able to see our team members' capacity at a glance before we start assigning it. So we're going from multiple different systems where we're jumping from one to another into a system where we can optimize everything and streamline it almost in the one screen. So if we could do that, it makes sense that we're going to get some efficiencies. If you even just do one of those and make a change to online briefing instead of email or the other ways that you receive it, you'll see a boost in the productivity and efficiency of at least your role, if not others in your team. The second area that we can look at for an uplift in our productivity and efficiency is in resource management. Now, this is where we're talking about human resources, the lovely people who are on your team, your designers, copywriters, and very, very talented people who make up your studio or in-house agency. There's two ways that we look at resource management. So as the manager of those resources, there's various things that are going to help you be really effective in determining how you're going to assign work out and where things are up to. So things that you want to be able to look at as a traffic manager is a visibility of the assigned tasks and the estimated effort per person. So what we're talking about there is, what tasks or briefs have I already assigned to somebody and who have I assigned it to? What's the deadlines for those tasks? And if possible, what's the estimated effort that might be in hours or percentage of their time that these tasks are going to take them, so I can see what their remaining capacity is. So when I then go and jump and look at my list of unassigned or new requests, so these new requests that have come into the team, I can see who's got capacity to take these additional tasks on. So as a manager, I want to be able to see all of these unassigned or new requests in a single view, not I've got multiple emails that have come to me. And what is the deadline for work to be completed? How many hours will it take? So I've got that snapshot before I start looking at who I'm going to assign it to. And what about when things change? Because they always will. It might be that dates get pushed out or brought forward. Suddenly something becomes really urgent or it gets delayed. People take unexpected leave. So when things change, how can I easily reassign tasks between team members and move dates around really, really easily? Some of the other things that we want to think about when we're doing resource management in capacity planning is to take into account what we call BAU activities. So BAU activities are things such as you might have a daily stand-up, a weekly team meeting, work in progress meetings. People, we want them to take breaks and take lunch, for example. They might only work a 9-day fortnight. So when we're looking at our capacity planning, is all of that taken into account? What we've discovered over time is that all of that activity can actually take up to 15% of your available weekly time. So if you've got a full-time team member working a 38-hour week, when you take into account all of these BAU activities, they've maybe only got about 32 hours in which to actually do work. So we want to make sure they can be super productive and super efficient in that time that they've got. And then as a team member who is being assigned work, how can we help them to be more productive and more efficient so what they need to work on is at their fingertips? So we want to make sure that we're giving them visibility of their assigned tasks and their effort of what they're being asked to do. So this is when we might think about, as a team member, how can I see what tasks or projects are already assigned to me? Perhaps I'd like to be alerted or notified when something new is assigned to me so that I can jump in and take a look at it. When are my tasks due and what's the status of them? Are they in progress? Are they on hold? Am I waiting for somebody else to come back to me? What percentage of my upcoming days or weeks are already filled with assigned work? Am I potentially over capacity on some days? Have I been assigned too much work? Has something crept over into another day and now I'm at risk of missing a deadline? And I want to be able to easily go back to my traffic manager and give them a heads up on that. Does my capacity take into account my working days, my upcoming annual leave, etc.? And importantly, who am I waiting on? So am I waiting on somebody else to action something? I've sent them something for approval. I'm waiting on them to give me some feedback and I need to chase them up because I don't want to miss a deadline because I'm waiting on others. So there's some of the things that we would talk about from a resource management perspective that you could consider how you could improve those in your organization. The third thing that we want to consider to help us when we're looking at productivity and efficiency is templates and automation. So how can we reduce the amount of duplication, double handling, and manual data entry that either our studio leads or creative leads are doing, or our team members? We know that if we've got to double handle things or even just copy and paste and do things again and again, it takes a lot of time and we get a bit frustrated with it. We'd also like to standardize specifications for things like assets and deliverables. So we know, for example, that web banner or that social tile, it's always the same specification. So let's not make people have to re-enter those specifications every time because that gets frustrating because we're doing it again and again and we might make an error. So having templates and automation reduces the likelihood of human error and oversights as well. And it really then feeds into having a really effective creative team project management tool, which can do all of this for you. So what are some examples of things that you might like to consider having templates for or automating? So we might consider, how can we convert a new brief into a project? So that new request, that new brief that I've just received as the traffic manager, asking us to do some new work, how can I take that and automatically turn it into a project without having to copy and paste things and transfer from one to another? So the key information, the dates, the objectives, etc., are just automatically taken from the brief and added into a new project. How can we create a project that's got predefined deliverables with all those specifications included? Now, that does mean that somebody's got to do some heavy lifting to set it all up originally, but we do it once and then the benefits flow on for every single project we do thereafter. Can I even create a series of projects that have got templates built into them? so that we automatically create a series of tasks every time we create a project type. Let me give you an example of that. We've got clients who have different tiers of projects. So it might be tier 1 to tier 2, tier 3, or even t-shirt size, small, medium, large type projects. And they know that every time they do a tier 1 project, there are these deliverables and these tasks that are included in it. So if that's the same pretty much every time we do it, let's set up a template that says, oh, it's a tier 1 project, great. Here's all of the tasks. Here's how long it takes, and I don't have to manually go in and set those up every single time. We can also look at tasks or activities that we do frequently in batches. Now, I very rarely see a project that results in one deliverable or one asset being created. I think the average is something like around about 10. I've seen upwards of 20. So unless you've got something unique where it's only a single asset that you're creating for a project, then you're going to want to do things in batches. And I'm talking about, I would like to be able to send a batch of assets for approval. If I was doing this on email, I'd just attach a whole stack of files to it, wouldn't I? And say, hey, here's everything. Can you please approve it? So I want to be able to upload things in batches. I want to be able to send them to people. And then I'd like to be able to add comments. What we often see is a group of assets that have been sent out, and there might be just different variations of the same asset. When my feedback on one, which might be, hey, can you move that from the bottom right to the bottom left? That applies to every asset in this batch. And instead of having to go in and comment on every single one, I can comment on one and then say, hey, this applies to all of these in this batch as well. So we want to look at ways where we can do something once and then multiply it across everything inside of our project. And the other thing we might want to consider is, particularly if we've got key dates, how can we send people reminders and alerts before it becomes due, when it's overdue, hopefully it doesn't get to be overdue, so that we're helping them to be more productive and keep on top of what is there for them to do. So the fourth tip that we have for you is around measuring what matters. Now there is a million different data points, so these are not the key ones, but remembering our topic today was around productivity and efficiency. So what are some of the data points that you can look at to help you demonstrate those key things? So let's take a look at demonstrating productivity. Here's where we can think about how many assets have the team created in the last week, the last month, the last quarter, for example. How many projects did we do? How many new briefs did we receive into the team? How many hours of work were logged by the team if you're tracking your hours? So think about that in terms of a count of numbers. Perhaps you've got some internal benchmarks which would then indicate, we were very busy this month, but we were not so busy this month. This can be very helpful, especially in doing some planning if you are a business that has some seasonal adjustments, particularly busy at Christmas, particularly busy in the lead up to end of financial year, for example. Then we want to look at how we can demonstrate efficiency. Now, efficiency, as we mentioned before, is about how much we're doing with the resources we've got. And what we work with a lot of organizations on is how to demonstrate an improvement in efficiency. So we set a benchmark to start with, and then we implement changes with the objective of improving our efficiency. So we might, for example, say, hey, we've managed to achieve a reduction in our number of versions. It used to be an average of 5 versions to get something approved, but by introducing better briefing, different collaboration tools, checklists so that people check things before they submit it, we've been able to reduce that from 5 rounds of amends down to just 3. And the flow-on effect of that is that we've been able to get our go-to-market time reduced down as well. So that used to be 11 days from when we received a brief until the final asset went out, but we've been able to reduce that down to 9. So these are ways that you can demonstrate efficiency to the business and the flow-on effects of that. One of the other things that we see some of our clients being able to demonstrate is also wastage. And we're talking about wastage of resources here and inefficiency that maybe just creeps into the business. So for example, you might like to report on how many projects were briefed in and started, and then for whatever reason, they got put on hold or abandoned. And how many hours of work maybe have been logged against those projects. I was in a meeting with a client last week who does track their hours for all the tasks that their designers do. And they shared with me that they had a project that they'd been working on for several months and it was just pulled. change of direction by the business. That wasn't what they were going to do anymore. And so this project they'd been working on for months was just cancelled. And they were able to show that to date, their team had recorded about 300 hours of work. If they've recorded 300, that means they've done way more than that. But even if we just go by what's been logged, that's 300 hours of work for nothing. That's now just lost. So you can think about how you can maybe demonstrate that creep to the business as well. And also, some organizations are also looking to demonstrate their ROI to the business in commercial terms, which might say, if we were to have outsourced the same number of activities or done the same amount of work and we'd outsourced it to an external agency, what might they have billed us versus the cost of doing that in-house ourselves? So the last one is about how you can start to make tech your friend. Technology inside of your organization, inside of your team, is something that can absolutely help boost productivity and efficiency with your teams and drive compliance without sacrificing any of them. So as I said earlier, we work with lots and lots of in-house creative teams every day. So they tell us what they love most about our automation tool that helps them to be efficient, productive, and compliant. So this is just the top 10. There's way more things. We'd be here all day, but these are the top 10 things that our clients love about automation for their in-house team. So online markup goes without saying. We want to be able to create assets and then share them around to everybody who needs to be able to review them, give us their feedback and approve them. So what are my file types? It might be a web banner, it might be a video, it might be a PDF, it might be a JPEG. How can I upload that? Have people comment it, mention others to bring them into the process, have version control so we can see what version we're up to, side-by-side comparison, and so many other features in online markup. We know for some of our clients, and maybe if you're watching this, that not all of your assets are that creative type. Maybe there's a lot of Word documents. It might be things such as product disclosure statements, customer letters, or maybe you're the copywriter in the team and you do all of your copy in a Word document to start with before it makes it into the creative asset. So instead of doing it in a Word document outside of the platform, our clients are able to do their Word documents inside their automation platform. They can have others marking it up, tracking changes, tracking versions, submitting for approval, all inside the platform. So that's a hugely popular one. We know as well for a lot of you that you are rerunning projects or tasks that you've done before. So maybe it's same, but different. It's a rate change or a date change or just updating the imagery that's in it. So instead of going and starting all over again on a project that you did 3 months ago or 6 months ago, how can I go find that project and click rerun, update the dates, update whatever I need to, and just do it again without having to start from scratch. Major time saver on that one. We mentioned before some of the things that we want to be able to do in batches. Let me do things at pace so we've got volume and velocity handled because we're doing things in batches instead of one by one. Another hugely popular one is the concept of forwarding. So let's say I'm a marketer and the creative team sends something to me to approve. And I look at it and I think, you know what? I think I should probably get somebody else or get some others to give me their feedback on this as well before I give my feedback back to the designer. So instead of me downloading it or popping it on an email and sending it off, I want to just be able to forward it. So how can I loop other people into the process? They can give me their thoughts and their feedback. And then I can very, very simply just take that, a handful of comments and consolidate that and give that back to the designer. Really, really popular piece of technology that we have there in automation that saves a ton of time. Dashboards are also hugely important. We have just released dashboards just this week. It's letting you see at a glance and some, pie charts and bar graphs and all sorts of cool things, some of the key metrics that you need to be able to keep on track of on a daily basis. We also provide our traffic managers or admins of our platform what we call a revision report. So as a traffic manager, and perhaps it's a really busy studio, we see some of our studios, such as Tourism Australia, with literally hundreds of assets going through every week. So it's impossible to stay on top of everything. So the revision report is a weekly report delivered to your inbox on everything, all the assets that have been created and versioned in the last week. And you can simply scroll through it. Everything might seem on track and then something jumps out and it's like, oh, there's something that's up to version 5 or version 6. Let me jump in and take a look at that. Ad storage is another standard part of our Admation platform. This is a central repository for all of your final approved assets. A little bit different to the DAM. We'll touch on that in a minute. But here in our ad storage is where the final approved assets live. So if I want to go and find a campaign I did 6 months ago or 12 months ago, and I want to be sure that this is the approved asset that went to market, I can find that in ad storage. That's also where I can rerun my projects from as well. From ad storage, we can choose to publish these approved assets into the DAM. So perhaps we want to be able to put certain assets into our DAM so that others in the business can access them. We can do that to publish to DAM from ad storage, even applying review dates to it. So for example, if this was a product disclosure statement that needed to be reviewed in 6 months' time, I can choose to publish it to the DAM, put a review date on there, and as the asset owner, I'll be notified of that upcoming review date. Number 9 there is obviously the DAM. I know a lot of you would be familiar with the concept of a digital asset management system, hugely valuable. As a traffic manager, I recommend having a DAM inside your organization to cut down on the number of inbound requests that you're going to get. I imagine if you had $1 for every time somebody said to you, oh, can you send me a copy of the logo? Where do I find the PowerPoint presentation? Where do I find the ... These are brand approved, company approved assets that everybody in the wider organization, or at least the wider marketing team, should be able to self-serve without needing to come in and take up your valuable time. So pop it in a DAM is our advice there. The last thing that you could consider if you really wanted to go next level with resource management is going into time sheeting or time capturing. And that's actually having your team members logging the hours that they actually do. So you've assigned them a task. Perhaps in that task, you've said the estimated effort is, you know what, I think this will take you 3 hours. And when they complete it, they actually log how many hours it did take them. This is a great way to be able to see, are we being as productive as we think we should be? Did a task that should have taken 3 hours take 2 or take 5? You can also build in their rate cards and lots of other features to really go next level on managing your resources of your team. So they are our top 5 tips for driving productivity and efficiency inside your in-house agency or creative team. If you would like to learn more, then please do reach out to me. My contact details are there on the screen. If you're not already connected to me on LinkedIn, please do send me a LinkedIn connection request. I love to talk about these topics, and these are things that at Admation, we are solving these problems for our clients every single day. So creative team, project and resource management, we've just covered some of that today. Marketing collaboration and approvals is the core of what we do here at Admation. I will happily talk about data and metrics for marketing operational efficiency all day long. I did a webinar just on that topic just 2 weeks ago. So if you'd like a copy of that webinar talking about data, then please do let me know. We do a lot of work around marketing compliance and risk management. It's a really big part of the marketing process, particularly if you are in a highly regulated industry. And of course, digital asset management is a core part of every good marketing team. So that's it. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that you have taken just a little nugget or two out of this webinar that you can apply back into your team. We'll be running another webinar again soon. So please, I hope you can join us again soon. Thank you.